Welcome to the Smoke and Rope Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Basor, and today is episode 72, Felons Feeding Families. I'm really excited to have Casey Kornoelje, founder and the general manager of Pharmhouse Wellness in Grand Rapids. Thanks for being on, Casey.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Yeah, excited to talk about what we got going on today. Um, uh, Also a felon along with myself. So we'll get into that a little bit later. But want to say hello to our co-host, and 2 days in a row everybody's on the show. That's great. Tom, what's going on in Kalkaska on Green Wednesday?
Uh, just a busy day. Got stuff going out, but also looking forward to spending time with family.
Excellent. Kevin, what about you?
Yeah, just wrapping up some final things before Thanksgiving. Like Tom said, looking forward to seeing some family potentially and getting some turkey. Watching the Lions lose probably.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, it's the Bears. We'll see.
They'll probably win.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They're unexpected.
Yeah, that's starting to feel like the old winless season when I remember we played the Titans that year and it was 40-0 at the end of like the first quarter. So at least we're not playing some juggernaut. But cool. I really I knew a Casey before this, but I first met Casey. Casey came to my office over a few years back before he opened Farmhouse and was a caregiver and with my knew my buddy Chris Silva at the time and hit it off. Casey is a marijuana felon. He is one of, I believe, the only caregiver marijuana felon in locally owned Grand Rapids Provisioning Center, which is really cool. He's been a huge supporter of Redemption from day one, and we love doing. We're over there right now doing a vendor day and giving away turkeys, which we'll talk about. But grew up in Grand Rapids, was in the banking industry beforehand. Interesting switch, and I was in insurance, but it's nice, I'm sure, to be out of it, and just doing a great job. And funny story about how you became a felon, and now what's going on with that. It's a family affair, so we'll let you talk about that as well. So Casey, thanks for coming on. Tell us a little bit about your background, how you came into Farmhouse, and how it's working out.
Yeah, man. I appreciate the invite today, Ryan, and congrats on the new addition, man, to the family. So hope everything's going good with you. Good to see you, Tom. Good to see you, Kevin. Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on again. Farmhouse is a medical and recreational provisioning center in GR. As you noted, we're the only kind of locally owned, independent little boutique shop. We operate out of a 500 square foot facility. It's really small in comparison to what you'd probably be accustomed to for a traditional provisioning center. But that was really the only way that I was able to get my foot in the door in Grand Rapids, and kind of made a little bit of lemonade with some lemons that we had on the property. But yeah, man, really stoked to just be in the industry and participating. And it's serendipitous to meet people along the way. It was wonderful to have Chris on the team, and really stoked that he's flourishing at Redemption and all the things that you guys are doing, man. So really stoked on to see your guys' progression, and we're just happy to be part of the story, man. So yeah, a little bit of background about me. I was a caregiver since 2008, and then growing cannabis kind of under the darkness of the cover of darkness since 1999 was the first time that I grew cannabis. And that was when you had to go to the hydro store and put stuff in black trash bags and put it in somebody else's trunk and have it drive around the corner and all that crazy shit that we used to do, man. Ended up being pop both through Ma and then through just selling herb, during the high school years, and getting a couple of convictions on my record. Nothing, I feel like I'm definitely preaching to the choir, and it's peanuts compared to what you went through, man. But that is part of my story and part of my record. And so yeah, it makes Farmhouse a little bit unique. We get some social equity breaks both at the city and state level. And then what we're doing is we're investing that money back into the neighborhood, and then through cool projects like we're doing today with the Felons Feeding Families. So yeah, that's that's what we got going on. It's great to have Chris in the house today, and we're giving out a bunch of free doobies and selling a bunch of real leaf solutions, a bunch of true cannabis live resin carts, and we're making it happen. So thanks again for having me on, man.
Hell yeah! Like, so why don't you go ahead and tell us about Felons Feeding Families? It's cool. I heard that the local news is out there interviewing you and Chris. I was trying to talk Chris into wearing his best pinstripe fancy suit and give him away, but kind of like old school, but he didn't want to. Yeah, tell us. I'm excited about it. I really appreciate you including me on this and working with the foundation, and we're just going to keep doing cool stuff like this. So let everybody know what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So Chris stopped by the other like a week or two ago, and much like everybody on this call, I grew up in a household of small business owners. Pharmhouse Wellness is a small business, and but in the high school years, my dad operated a crematory, where you actually burn bodies, and that was the way that our family provided for itself. So kind of a little running joke in the shop was the murder van. It's an Econoline 350, 3/4 ton. And he used to haul around some bodies in it, and Chris came to me the other day. I was like, yo, man, what do you think? What do you think about giving out some turkeys out of the back of the murder van? So it was meant to be. And I said, man, that sounds like a great idea. And from there it was born. It was born Felons Feeding Families. As you mentioned, I've got the felony distribution charge, and I know that you do too. So yeah, we just really the goal is to try to give back to the neighborhood and to folks that we feel super fortunate and lucky to have a business that's flourished during the pandemic, but we know a lot of people haven't. So a lot of people are out there, and there's a lot of need and there's a lot of struggle. So yeah, we got 100 turkeys. It's not as crazy as other people's that I've heard, but it was a great starting point for us. 100 turkeys. We ended up giving out 200 pre-rolls in exchange for canned goods like the staples, corn, beef, fruit, mac and cheese, all those things. So it's really a combo, no strings attached, no purchase necessary. You just come through today, 9 to 9 while supplies last. We're down to about 10 or 15 turkeys now, but yeah, you come through, get some food and feed your family, get a free pre-roll, and it's just good vibes today, man. We're just about giving it back today and being thankful for what we got. So we're calling that Felons Feeding Families.
This is it's awesome to see. The industry's always had like a leg up on wanting to prove itself, legitimacy, and that we can give back. Even in spite of all the things that have gone wrong, understanding how to move past those things. It's amazing. But do you find that advertising for these types of events, because of the way that the rules are structured for licensed facilities, do you find that it's a little bit more difficult to get information out to the general public about, things like, giving away turkeys or anything like that because you are a cannabis business?
Yeah, it's funny that you bring that up, Tom. It was kind of had like a oh shit moment the other day. It was actually, so what, today's Wednesday, so it would have been yesterday. Yeah, Tuesday. Get a call. I got the guy, Tony. Shout out to Tony at the MRA. He's my enforcement agent, and got his number saved, for sure. So I see Tony's number come up on the speed dial there on the cell phone. I was like, oh, of course I take it. And Tony says, yeah, I thought he was going to give me a call about the AU licensing renewal that I got coming up. And he said, yeah, I see you guys in the news. It looks like you're going to be giving out some food and all that stuff. I was like, oh yeah. I was like, yeah, right. That's all good. He's like, well, actually, we got MDARD involved in this now. And we got, this is going up to the director, and my boss wants to know, and you're on marijuana property. And I was like, ooh, those are things that I wasn't expecting to hear or deal with 24 hours after I had already bought all these turkeys and everything. We've been blasting it across the news. So I was just like, man, you know, I just got my fingers crossed and everything. And Tony's a great guy. The MRA, I have a good relationship with them, and I don't mean that in any bad way, but for a second there, I was thinking, man, this might not go on. We've already put the word out, but he basically, thankfully, got back to me in a pretty swift manner that night and said, my director, because they did, to your point, man, you're talking about advertising, you're talking about cross between, a cannabis license and food, which is kind of a weird territory. And so anytime you start mixing those things, it's a little bit additional scrutiny, I think. But yeah, thankfully they got back to me and they let us go forward, and it's all good. But yeah, man, we're out there doing it today. Still giving away the turkeys.
Well, there's a precedent been set. That's kind of that. I was thinking about that. A lot of the stuff going on, and just being able to operate like a normal business would be nice. Even at alcohol standards.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey,
oh, yeah.
Hey, Casey. Obviously, it's fresh in everyone's mind. We did a show on it yesterday. Obviously, the big, the testing. Lab, the whole scandal going on. Virtus sued the state yesterday, so this isn't going away. How does that affect you? We have you on as a retailer. What's that like for you? What's kind of the mood? We're not a retailer, so I'm just curious your perspective and what's it like for your store, other stores, the market, and what's the kind of the general attitude or feeling?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a cluster. It's a bit of a cluster, a significant amount of volume and transactions that are affected by it. Obviously, people's health and safety for me is towards the top of the list. I really don't know what's going on inside the walls of Virtus, but I think you can kind of infer some things from the headlines and the bulletins that have been put out there. But we're definitely going to proceed with all the protocols. This is the very first recall that I've been through. We've never dealt with anything like this before. And I think part of that, Ryan and Tom, stems with aligning our shop with good partners like yourselves, that we have a lot of confidence and trust in, that the products that you come and send to our shop as a retailer have gone through the appropriate channels, to be there. And again, it's not to dog on any other folks, but we just have great confidence in our partnerships and all that. So appreciate you guys. Yeah, man, I think that as far as across the retail segment, I've heard some stories about other operators having more of a significant impact than us. We did have a slight amount of exposure to it. Thankfully, some of them were brand new relationships, not stuff like, the time that we've had together. But
right.
But it's if it's too good to be true, then it probably is. And I get a lot of people, folks just hounding you, and so take a bite of an apple every once in a while. But yeah, so as far as what we had, just a couple of SKUs or a couple of flavors, and talked to those vendors, and obviously we pulled them from the shelves. The MRA has given us 3 different options. You can either have it retested from Pharmhouse, send it back to the original sender, have them retest it, or you can destroy the product. So right now it's looking like we're most likely going to send everything back. Whether it's retested and sent back to us is yet to be seen. But overall, we're thankful that we didn't have to shut down. We only had to pull a few things from the shelves, and again, just kind of credit some of the really good relationships that we have for that.
I'm curious if there's any way to even track, if you, let's say you are, obviously, I'm not going to say you are obviously a provisioning center. I'm thinking from my perspective. Anyway,
No worries.
you have product in your store, and you have a new vendor, and that vendor may not have failed for, say, aspergillus, or have some kind of systemic problem at their grow. I'm not saying who does or who doesn't, but when you have yeast and mold problems, it's typically environmental in your grow. And but you're just, let's say you have everything under control, and you just happen to be testing with Viridis, you get all this wrapped up, but you're a provisioning center. How do you know if that new vendor that you brought on is either has a systemic problem in their facility, or is just wrapped up in this whole thing, by circumstance?
That's a great question, and I don't have a silver bullet answer for you on that. I think you could dig deeper. It would come with potentially retesting the stuff, right? So if it gets sent out and you're keeping a close eye on it, gets sent back to the sender, the vendor who either A, may just have been caught up in it, or B, has systemic issues in their facility. So since we don't have the level of confidence in the lab that it came with, we're going to have to take another peek, right? You're going to have to send it to another spot, or have somebody just take a closer look at it. So that would be where me as a retailer, I would be able to delineate between those two things, whether it truly is product that's fails for microbials or water content, foreign matter, whatever it may be, or whether that if it passed at another facility, then I would make the assumption or kind of take from it that they just kind of got caught up, their collateral damage a little bit in it. So yeah, man, unfortunately, I don't have a way to right out of the gate, say. It's going to take a little bit more time for me. But I, just from visual inspection of some of the product, and I'd love to hear your take on it as a cultivator. Some of the product that I've seen come through the door, with everybody being so fixated on THC and everything like that, the moisture content can be way out of whack, So I don't know if it's people chasing waterfalls on THC, if it's a microbial thing, if it's, what it is, but that's definitely something that appears to be just on surface level, going on just due to the moisture content, some of the flower, if you follow me.
What's your opinion on that, Tom? Like, as far as what you're seeing?
Oh, I mean, I don't really see a whole lot of flower from other facilities, just what's going out our door. I travel a little bit and look around, but like I said yesterday, a lot of the issues that people run into is basic, environmental control and, cutting corners in inefficiencies sometimes that may, cause oversight of a potential problem looming, or just saying fuck it and throw everything out the window and just decide we're just going to remediate everything because we know we can't grow a clean product, know. And I guess if I were a retailer, I would want a second opinion on stuff. I mean, shoot, you could pull stuff off. I mean, it shouldn't be on you to make sure that the products you're buying, but I guess another thing you could do is to travel to the grows and create those relationships with the cultivators, the farmers out there, to ensure that people have your back. That's important to know that. It's not always the bottom line. The bottom line is rarely ever the most important thing. So if you're just cutting corners and efficiencies in order to obtain the cheapest possible product, in order to sell it as cheap as possible, and you're willing to put people's health at risk, then, that's just, it doesn't seem right.
Yeah, from a marijuana sales perspective, we've talked about this, and I've been talking about it, Casey. I feel like maybe this is what it's about, maybe it's not. But let's say maybe Viridis, you can get an extra 4 or 5% THC points if that's the case. That's really thrown off. If 60% of the flower has been tested in Michigan, is getting tested by them, and everyone's got that, it throws off the whole public. I mean, it's really it's keeping this myth going that THC matters like it does, and maybe this resets it some. And as a retailer, you can kind of explain a little bit better than. But we got into it yesterday talking about some of these big guys that are concerned about clean cannabis. Their SOPs is they remediate everything before they send it to testing. So they're getting it microwaved and then getting it sent to, say, Veritas. They all were testing with them and getting high THC. So you're getting this microwave, not all terped up. And that's what the customer is buying based on that. And we know that's like none of us would want to smoke that. It's gross. So what do you feel like? Are you seeing any of that, or like? And then what about maybe a push to make these growers let the consumer know out there? Do you think your patients and customers would want to know that their marijuana has been microwaved or not?
Yeah, I mean, we do the best that we can. We're beholden to the folks that come through the door and folks that don't have as much of a rich history with the cannabis plant as everybody on this line, or most folks that are probably listening. So I do think that it's going to take time. I'm sorry ahead of time if I've ever let that cascade onto you guys or any of our partners in any way, but it's hard as a retailer to see that day in and day out. And until you are, or if you've seen it, if you've been through that, then you know what it feels like. And it's just that at some point you're just like, okay, like I'll just give you what you want, man. I'll just give you what you want. But I completely agree. The THC thing is out of control, but being online, being on Instagram, Facebook, and some of the forums and stuff, it sounds like it's a prevalent issue across the country, so not just in Michigan, but other marijuana markets where, where the consumer is fixated on the THC figure. So, but with that said, your guys' product, people still seek it out individually, by name and by flavor and by variety. So, we sell a ton of Redemption product and we sell a ton of Real Leaf product. Even if the THC comes in 10 points lower or 5 points higher this time, there's still other factors to me that really come into play. And I think that at a shop like ours, we're in a good spot to be able to leverage those stories and talk to folks, both about the mission of Redemption and what Pharmhouse is all about. And those things allow us to kind of defer, push back a little bit on the just straight THC seekers. But the microwave stuff, yeah, man, if it's remediated, we'll tell people that. And that's an easy one to push them away from that product and towards another high quality product. So that's too bad. I guess you call it a little bit of an insurance policy to just straight throw it in the willow and then send it off to the lab. But yeah, I think folks should know. I think that I think it's transparent to talk to people about that. And then the real smokers, I mean, it's, as I was talking a minute or two ago about the water content, it's like you grind that shit up and it's dust, it turns into dust.
Yep.
So we got to bring back sticky weed, guys. We want the stuff that's like footballs, when it's just like all stuck together and shit. That's what I want to see. And people, it'll take a little bit of time, but I think people will understand and they'll continue to seek out those products that are sticky and icky and gooey, just like your guys's.
Yeah, no, that's I find it interesting that one of the things that the prohibitionists have been somewhat successful at lately is talking about how this isn't your mom and dad's weed. It's so high in THC, and they're out there talking about this high THC. So the younger kids are probably reading that and like, oh, we want to get that high THC. It's kind of like so they're training, even though they're trying to scare people, they're almost.
But you got 10% beer out there right now, and they didn't really have. I mean, commercially, people make moonshine and everything, but I mean, it's just a
It's stupid. Same wine or anything. Like, you know, like you're not going like, oh, what's this? Like think about like especially wine, the region, the year, you know, all the flavonoids, everything. You're not trying to get 50% alcohol content wine. So I don't know. We'll get there. But speaking of that, we're talking about flower and growing. There's a rumor you got a grow possibly coming online. You want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, thanks, man. So it's been a tough little stretch there, but we are under construction. Have been for some time. We started in June. This is a single Class C. It's a property that's 2 doors down, adjacent to the dispensary, and gosh, man, it's been 3 years in the making, really, from holding the property just as an idle asset for 3 years. You know, a real drain, and going to the planning commission and talking to the city and the city of Grand Rapids. I mean, West Michigan's just a pretty conservative place. You know, Lansing had a big jump on Grand Rapids as far as their exposure to the culture and exposure to cannabis facilities. So I think I'm just kind of making an assumption that maybe pulling permits and talking to city officials is a little bit easier in Lansing than it is in Grand Rapids. But I can only speak from my experiences, and I can tell you it's been a bitch, man. It's been real hard. And then you layer on top of that some of the COVID related construction delays. It's been a challenge, just a tough period to try to throw together a grow. But we've one step in front of the other, man. We're probably rounding third base, 75% complete on it. They're over there hanging the HVAC units today. All the lights have been delivered. We're doing LED production. That's in accordance with what the city wants to see for efficiency measures. And yeah, just really, really excited. There's you know, I don't think it'll impact the good relationships that I have at all, but there's you know, some folks that I wouldn't mind, you know, swapping out their flower with some house brand stuff, and also just spend some more time in the garden. It's love the retail, but it'll be good to be around plants again. And if everything goes good, we are expecting a little baby at home here in January. But
Awesome.
thanks, man. If everything goes good, yeah, thank you. It's crazy time, but yeah, if it goes well, hopefully right around then, Ryan, January, February timeframe is when we hope to fire up the lights and get going. And kind of in the back of my mind, I'm thankful that it didn't come online right at Croptober, you know. So I'm kind of looking at it in that way, trying to be positive and be thankful for what it is.
Are you gonna be a Farmhouse brand and just sell it to yourself, or are you gonna wholesale as well?
I don't know yet. I'm trying to figure that out. I'd love to hear what you guys think about that. You know, this is, I mean, we don't have to dive too much into it, but part of me is like, okay, right now I could probably pump out 8s of high quality flower at a price that I can't get high quality flower for, right? You know, $25 an 8 and retail it and still be okay. But with that, I think you would change the tide of what the Grand Rapids flower market, how it exists currently. And I kind of think of some of the folks over in Lansing that may have done that, you know, and whether that was the right call or not, you know. So part of me wants to put out $25 8s of high quality flower that I can sell it as fast as I produce it. Mm-hmm. And I won't have to go to the third market. And then part of me wants to have a little bit more stability and uphold what is still a bit of an immature retail market in Grand Rapids, and keep it at a reasonable price, you know, still 35, 40, 45 bucks for, you know, high testing craft cannabis. And then in that regard, I don't think I would have quite the volume, and I would have to send it out to the open market. So I don't know, Ryan. I'd be curious what you guys think. If you guys think that's like which strategy, I'd really appreciate you guys' input on that, because I'm just mulling it over right now. You know, not sure what to do.
I got an idea.
Sounds
Tom,
like
you
a
want to
great
go
plan
first?
to me. Oh yeah, I say it sounds like a good plan to me, man.
Yeah, well, I look at it because you're right. You just hit on the Lansing market, and I just pick with everything going on, it's been a great time to call owners of stores like yourself, old relationships, and do that. So we got a big shipment going to Homegrown Lansing today. It's historically been one of my big stores, but they came online with theirs, and Lansing, them and Pure Options, Homegrown, they're the two stores, and they sell $25 eighths of their own stuff, and it's good flour. So that's hard to move a lot of product in Lansing because of that. But we're looking, because my goal has always been to compete with the black market. If you get $25 really good flour on shelves and it's tested, that's pretty nice. So I think my stuff and Redemption's going to be on sale tomorrow on Homegrown for and Friday for $25. So we're working on my end to kind of go there, as a blue collar Midwestern brand. Tom's I would consider a more higher end craft brand. So maybe his idea is a little different, but that's who I am, and I'm trying to move a lot of volume. So on your end, you could do that, and you would set the Grand Rapids market on fire, kind of like Archives doing up at Oswell with the concentrates. But then you pigeonhole yourself, and you're not going to really, but wholesale a lot. But then again, you're just in Grand Rapids, so maybe you're not going to get a competitor that say in Detroit that also has a Grand Rapids store might not buy from you, but you could still get it. But I think for me, it's market share, turn it, burn it, and 280E goes away. And, I laugh, I look back, I'm not going to say who, but I was talking to a big player in Grand Rapids trying to structure a broker a deal for a dispensary, and they're talking about the competitors, and they didn't know who you were or nothing. And they're like, oh, they have this one over here on Wealthy Street. That's small. That one's going to do nothing. That we don't have to worry about all that stuff. And I'm sitting there all right, well, I guess we're going to see. And I know you guys do great with what you got, and hey man, $25 an eighth in Grand Rapids of really good stuff is gonna go nuts. So I guess it's depending on what strategy, but either one could work. I say go for it though.
Hell yeah, man. No, thanks for your blessing. Yeah, and like I said, I don't anticipate that it would impact or influence the relationships we have. People still love Real Leaf. They still love, I'm not going to be growing Mafia Funeral. I'm not going to be growing Spike Punch, so those aren't things that I would do. I would try to diversify it into some varietals that are a little bit different than what we have on the shelf or what I see. A lot of folks seem to want sativa, so I think there's maybe a little niche there for some powerful sativa, maybe some haze action. I don't know if I can stand the 70, 80 day flower on that, but it would be sure cool to bring some haze to the market, because you just don't see haze in the commercial regulated marketplace. So yeah, man, more to come on what exactly happens. I'm just stoked to be in it, to be doing this, and to be able to bring some product to our hometown is going to be a dream come true. And then obviously just, making that asset not idle anymore will be really helpful for the shop. But yeah, I think, Farmhouse is definitely small. There's no doubt about it. People are probably doing more business in town than us, but we were the second shop to open, and we do have a nice little following. So that's all I really need, man. As long as I got enough for a bus pass home at the end of the day, and I can buy a bunch of diapers for the old kiddo that's on the way, then I'm happy with that, man. I don't need to have a massive conglomerate or a massive, enterprise. I'm just trying to have fun and do our thing down here.
Yeah, it can happen in cannabis, man, as long as, people don't fuck it up.
No, that's
still live a dream.
You made me think about a conversation we had back, Casey. I was talking to you about as when I was getting my first two salespeople, and Chris being one of them, and then now I have Nate Darling's full time as well. And I never had an employee before, never delegated. I've never done that. I've always just made big sales or gone out, that type of stuff. And it was killing me, and I have a business coach, and he was helping me through it, and it's been revolutionary for me now. Like, I can't believe the amount of stuff I'm getting done and I'm not doing it. So
Yeah.
I've never done it. It's it's enlightening. How's that going for you? I know you were struggling with that at the retail, and now it sounds like you're not in it as much, and we're going to be over in the grow. So how's that gone for you?
Well, it's been good, man. We really miss having Chris around the shop, and we had a great working relationship. So with his departure, we promoted some more folks, and they've been doing an awesome job. We have a cool shop, but we got even a better team, So I really all the success of the shop is related to the people that work there, and I can't. That's one of the big things I think I've learned. I've never managed a group of 20 people. When I was in the banking industry, I was always a worker bee, kind of by choice, because I couldn't drink the Kool-Aid as much, and I never really wanted to rise through the ranks of corporate banking. So I was a portfolio manager. I just managed my own portfolio, and I thought I did a good job at it, but taking a step back and having to manage a group of 20 people, it's a new challenge, So really, for me, I try to do it, lead by example a little bit, show people that I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty. When the shop started, it was me, Chris, Jossie, and like one other person. There was 4 people, we were doing everything, man, from curbside to inventory to sticker and stuff to just a small crew. And then, as the business grew and we got more volume, it required hiring more people. And then, again, with the promotion of a couple, we now have two head retail managers and then 2 assistant managers. That's been really nice. It's been really nice as they've got the foundation. They know the SOPs. We've tried to document those good for them. And it's wonderful to sit back and just observe and let them do their thing. And I just hope that I can be a good leader to them. That's my goal, is to, to be a good example and a good leader and empower them to make good decisions and then not micromanage. So these are all things that I'm new to and learning, and it's hard. I think we all struggle with it a little bit, right? Because we've all built these, you put your blood and sweat and your tears and just all these years into this brand, and then to hand it over, so to speak, step back or hand it over to other people. That's a real challenge. It's taken some little bit of soul searching for me and some trial and error, but again, just, shout out to the whole team. They're doing a great job. And there's one thing I do know for sure is that there's no way for me to grow this brand and to grow this business with me doing all the things myself, so I have to delegate those out. And that's what I hope to, continue to grow and develop in as a shop owner.
Kudos to being a self-made, awesome person, man. We worked with you from the beginning. We used to talk just about almost every week. And now it's like, well, you said you have 20 employees. We have about 30. It's just crazy to think, man. Because, we were doing the same thing. We were running around packaging, watering, and just as it, naturally grows into something awesome. Having a huge team and learning how to delegate is crucial. I mean, you can't do it all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm pretty fascinated by it and watching everything grow, and even looking back 2 years ago now, cannabis is light years, even though we've all been caregivers since 2008 and 9 and patients. I just had my 2-year wedding anniversary last year, and I just look back. I hadn't even started redemption yet. I hadn't,
crazy.
Had a kid. Like all this stuff. Look what's happened in 2 years. That's pretty wild. So, it was great having you on the show today, Casey. And I'm gonna come out to Grand Rapids and maybe get together, have a lunch too. And I get to do that now as part of my new job title and duties as I delegate. So it's getting kind of fun. But thanks for including me on the Felons Feeding Families. We're gonna do this, I would think, every year. I don't see why not, and make a big deal. Like get a lot more going next year and get more people involved. You guys did a great job, and Roberta has always done a great job over there for you as well. So, Tom, any final thoughts?
Well, I want to come down and check out the grow for sure, and I definitely want to try some farmhouse flowers. So keep me posted on all that. We definitely need to catch up, man. But it's good to see you. Glad you're well.
Yeah.
Casey?
Likewise, man. Yeah, I appreciate it, you guys. Thank you so much for the invite, and again, congrats on the new addition to the family, Ryan. That's a really exciting time, man. I hope you're taking the time you need. These things they don't come back around. So I hope absolutely take the time away. You're in good hands with Chris. He's over here selling me old pal and redemption units. So we're all good, man. We got your back, and hope to have both you guys back for a long time, and keep the good flower coming. The doors are always welcome and open here at the shop. So thank you so much for the partnership over the last 18 months, and looking forward to a lot of good years to come, you guys.
Yeah, no, for sure, and I do appreciate it, and I am up all night. I'm on night watch, so I'm getting a lot of great time, just not much sleep. So, but so appreciate it. I get to come in and do some fun stuff like this. So thanks for being on, man, and everybody have a great Thanksgiving, and enjoy the time with the families. Appreciate it.
Happy turkey. See you
Happy
guys.
Thanksgiving, y'all.